And we are back here on Metal Nation Radio. I am Rustin Rose of Metalholic Magazine, and you just heard Nuclear Boomerang from the new Pretty Maids album, Louder Than Ever. With us tonight, co-founder and guitarist Ken Hammer. How you doing, brother?
Thank you very much, man. I'm fine. And you?
All good? I'm doing wonderful. It's awesome to have you. Get a chance to talk with you for a quick few minutes before you guys get ready to head out on your European tour. You guys got to be pretty jazzed about getting back on the road.
Oh, man, you cannot believe it. I mean, we haven't done that much for the last 3-4 months. I mean, the last couple of gigs we did was in December. Now, we did this, we always do that every year. In March, we do this Children's Cancer Foundation, where we kind of play for nothing and then, collect a lot of money for the Children's Cancer Foundation, which is a very nice thing to do and gives you, like, good feeling inside. But besides from that, we haven't done much, so I'm really looking forward to go out again.
Absolutely. I just wish we could get you over here for a U.S. show. I know it's difficult.
You have no idea how much I would love that, man. I mean, we would love that.
Yeah, I know it's tough for European bands, especially in the market in the U.S., and you guys got to go through so much to get over here. But hopefully at some point we can get you over here. But at least with the new album, you guys have a live DVD attached to it, and so we're at least getting some sense of that. But before we chat about the new record, I just have to backtrack a year and tell you, Motherland was fantastic. It took the
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it took the 24th spot on our top 50 albums of 2013 for Metalholic, and it was in my top 10. You guys had to be pretty excited with the response that album got all around.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like when we did the first album we did in a long time was Pandemonium, and it seems like after we got a new producer and everything, we started to write songs differently and produce them differently, and it just seemed to give the band a brand new sound. But it's I mean, and then of course after Pandemonium we did the live DVD, It Comes Alive, and then now Motherland, which is sort of like an extension of Pandemonium in sounds and the way we write songs.
Right, and I was going to say, after the release of Pandemonium and Motherland, the band has begun gaining new fans again. You've landed in the top 15 on the Denmark charts anyway, with all three of your
believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, is that why you maybe felt you needed a bridge? Because you did the live album between Pandemonium and Motherland, and now you've got Louder Than Ever. Is that...
But it's sort of like what we call the in-between albums, sort of like to keep the whole thing going, so we could it could still be interesting for us to tour and stuff, Because I mean, Louder Than Ever it's not a complete brand new album. There's 8 songs previous that we've done like in the forgotten years, which we call them. That when we did actually when the whole grunge thing happened,
right? When
the hard rock and heavy metal scene kind of disappeared. We still continued doing albums because I don't think we noticed that the heavy metal scene was disappearing. So we kept on doing albums like we always have, but not a lot of people heard them, unfortunately, and we thought there were some good songs there that deserved to be heard, and with the brand new audience that we kind of have from Pandemonium and Motherland, we thought, why not try to re-record them with Jacob, the producer, and just see what happens. So we recorded 8 songs from that period and 4 new songs. So it's not a remix, it's re-recorded.
Right.
They actually recorded again. So it is, for us, it was like making a brand new album. Same work.
Right now, and I was going to sort of ask, why not just do like an EP of just the 4 new tracks? But that makes sense, because that was sort of, you had the first period there where the band did really well, especially in Europe. Unfortunately, you're always one of those underrated bands over here in the States, but you guys did really well in Europe, and then there was that lull thanks to Kurt Cobain and all the
maybe it's connected. Why you being over? I mean, one of the things why it could be that it is like that in the States is because we haven't toured there that much. And it's always been very difficult, and it's even more difficult now because you don't sell albums anymore. It's so weird.
Right.
I mean, the whole sales thing for an album, that's going to make it even more difficult for us to go over there and tour, I'm afraid. But I would love to, brother. Oh, man.
And now, how did you choose? Because that's got to be tough, because there were several albums there, like half a dozen albums that you had to pull these songs from. How did you choose which tracks to re-record if you only got to do 8?
Well, I've been practicing martial art for many years, so I kind of won the battle. No, no, but it was a bit tough, to be honest, because there was a lot of songs to choose from, and also we've heard a lot of critics from why did you pick this song, why didn't you pick that song? But well, it was like we've done 5 or 6 albums in that period, and of course there was always be somebody who thought, why did you do another one of this? But what we did decide was we did want to touch the first 3 or 4 albums, like Future World, Red Hot and Heavy, Jump the Gun, Syndicate, because they were like, I don't think we could top re-record Future World anyway. Right. I mean, we didn't see any point in that. People know that song, so it was more interesting for us to do the songs that people didn't know. And I'll tell you one thing: it was pretty tough to find the right songs.
Yeah, I would imagine there's just such a great catalog to choose from.
But you can get so much further with a nice word and a gun than just a nice word. You know?
Well, and the tracks that you picked were great choices. I liked all of them. And then, of course, the 4 new songs, which is a nice mix in and of itself. You've got some, the ballsy rockers, you've got the mid-tempo quasi-power ballad there, and then you've got the true ballad.
It's always been our history to do those kind of things, right. And those we've always been we've sort of like had 2 angles in the band, so to speak. The more hard stuff and the more soft melodic kind of AOR kind of stuff, because we always loved that kind of music. We both like, Iron Maiden and Bon Jovi, if you want to put it that way, or maybe not Bon Jovi, but Journey then. Right. So we always listened to that ourselves. So that's why maybe for a long period of time there was a disadvantage to us, because people couldn't figure out whether we were an AOR band or a heavy metal band. There's so many labels. It's so difficult. That's why that's why like a band like Motorhead say we'll rock and roll, because it sums up the whole terms of style.
Right, the whole labeling thing it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many new words, man. I can't keep up with it. Oh man, they say, so now we're a power metal band. I don't know, what is that? I don't know. I have no idea. We just play what we think we like, and what we like, and then we hope that other people like it. I can't figure out all the labels for it. I'm sorry.
Since there are just 4 new songs on the album, do you mind taking us through and sort of giving us the backstory on them?
Well, if you take a song like Nuclear Boomerang and Deranged, both of them, it's like in the typical heavy metal, Pretty Maids, heavy metal vein, sort of like the rockers, the up-tempo that we love writing and love playing. So it's pretty much like an extension of from Motherland and Pandemonium, I would say. Then as My Soul to Take, it's one of those AOR kind of songs, radio friendly, if you like, that we also enjoy doing and writing. We've done that for many years. I mean, all the way since Red Hot and Heavy, when we did Waiting for the Time and stuff like that, and Love Games from the Future World. So we kind of like that. And then the last one, what's it called? Heart Without a Home, man. Oh, I'm sorry, man. There's so many songs. I mean, we've been rehearsing that. I've been rehearsing at home because we're going to hook up with the band tomorrow and start rehearsing for the tour. So I have all these titles of all the songs that we're going to play. So it's just a mess up my head. I'm sorry about that. Heart Without a Home. It's just really, that is a ballad. I mean, there's no drums on it. It's only guitars, vocal, and keyboard. Right. And that is just that is a ballad in its true terms, I would say.
Yeah, it definitely is. And hopefully this doesn't sound like an insult in any way, but when I did the review, I mentioned of My Soul to Take really sounds like maybe a little ballsier version, something like Def Leppard would do. Not necessarily AOR, but definitely in that light alloy, as they call it, range. It is in
that style, if you like. And we know that. I mean, I'm a huge country fan, I don't know if that's popular to say, but I don't care. I mean, I like Brad Paisley and Keith Urban because, to me, there's always only been 2 kinds of music. There's only been good and bad. Exactly. And then it's up to whoever to decide whether they like it or not. But, I mean, because you play hard rock and heavy metal, so many people over here think that I'm listening to heavy metal every day, 24/7. I am not, I tell you. It would drive me fucking nuts. I love it. I love listening to it, and I love playing it, but I can't listen to it all the time. That would kind of also limit my way of writing songs, because I get inspired if I hear a great song on the radio, whoever's done it, or if it's Keith Urban or another guy. I mean, I just love good songs.
Absolutely, and it's funny because I talk to so many of the really extreme metal bands too, the death metal, the black metal, and all that, and they all tell me the same thing. When they're home, when they're not on stage, they're not listening to metal at all. They're listening to country. They're listening to pop. They're listening to R&B. They're listening to all sorts of stuff because they have to get some distance from it.
You have to get away from it once in a while. I mean, if this has been my life for over 30 years.
Right.
I mean, every single day, day in and day out, and I love it. And I would never, ever change it. And if I had the chance, I would do it all over again and probably make all the same mistakes. Because, we never learn in this band. We've never learned. That's one thing. We had a motto in this band, still going wrong. We've had that for many years because it's true. It's really, really true. We do the same mistakes all over again, every time. I mean, we've never learned, and it's actually turned into a big joke within the band. I mean, wasn't that a mistake last time? Yeah, it was. All right, let's do it again. It's very strange, but we always seem to do the same mistakes all over and over.
You've always said in the past that your songs always start with the riff first, but how does that process work in the band? Is it primarily just you, or does Ronnie get involved in the melodies and the lyrics, or?
Well, it varies a little bit. Mostly, it's that I show up to the rehearsal room with the guys, or just me and Ronnie with a riff for a song, an idea, and maybe even a song title, and then we take it from there. That's basically how it starts. But it also could start with Ronnie's got a melody line that he thinks is good, and then we base it around that.
Lyrically, too, you guys have been changing. I mean, you've always had some political content and stuff in your lyrics, but over the years, as we've all been getting older, there's been more of the state of the nation in the commentary, like "Mother of All Lies," "Nuclear Boomerang" being obvious examples. Seems like there's some simmering disgust going on there.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, we've always been political interested. We're not a political band. It's not political songs like this is a song for whatever party people would vote for. It's just like general feelings towards things, like nuclear. I don't think anybody would like nuclear bombs. I mean, I think me and a whole lot of other people in the world would be very happy if that could be undone, that they invented that. Because it's not a good thing. So it's just a general thing more than anything specific.
You had mentioned you guys had gone with a new producer for the last couple of albums. Everything sort of shifted there, and that would be Jacob Hansen. How did you? I mean, obviously he's from Denmark as well. How did that connection happen, and what do you think works so well with you guys with him?
Well, I mean, some of my friend from Volbeat, Michael,
right,
suggested that we should work with him because he thought he would suit the band very well. And I mean, Denmark is a small country. Jacob used to be a guitar player in an old band called Invocator. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I knew of him. I didn't know him. But Michael from Volbeat, they've done all their albums with Jacob as well. So he's called me up and said that, why don't you try to use Jacob for the next album? And we were talking about it. I said, yeah, man, why not? I mean, that'd be interesting. We like the sounds. And then he's always done great sounds. So we gave him a call and we hooked up. He heard some of the songs and I thought it was brilliant. So we started from there.
And it's obviously working.
Oh, I think it is, but thank you very much.
Now, I wanted to ask you, with all the new technology, people recording on their own computers in different countries, etc., how do you keep things fresh and organic, and how much of the new technology does Pretty Maids use?
Oh, how do I keep it fresh? That I have no idea. It just seems natural because right now we're in and it feels like it's a brand new start for the band. And so that in itself keeps it fresh. And of course, we try to use as much of the new technology that's available if it makes things easier and more comfortable. So, I mean, I think you should use it as much as you can without it getting over the top, if you know what I'm saying.
Right, because you don't want to lose that organic nature of.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, of course. I mean, back in the old days when you recorded on 2-inch tape, everything took such a long time. You have to rewind and blah blah blah. Today with Pro Tools, it's so much easier. I mean, it's everything is just so easy.
Right.
Of course, I can't believe how we did it back in the old days. It's unbelievable, man. Of course, we use the technology that is at hand and that's available.
Absolutely. I was just saying the downside is that you got bands out there that can't actually play their instruments, and they're using the technology to make up for that.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, people can go into the studio today without, having the slightest clue of singing in decent key. But today, anything is possible, really. That's not the way we use technology.
Well, I was going to say, the music industry has become sort of a train wreck over the last decade. Do you think in this digital age there's a way to fix the music industry or save it?
Oh, fuck, man. If I had the answer to that, I would be a rich man. I would be a rich man. A lot of record company would hire me, I tell you. But it just seems like right now it's an evolution that's not stoppable. So either you can jump on the wagon or give up,
Right.
There's not a lot you can do. You just have to tag along, whether you like it or not. I think it was better in the 80s when you actually bought music, when people bought albums and stuff like that. I love iTunes. I love Spotify. I love all these things. But I think if I go into iTunes and buy an album these days, I don't think I get value for money in terms of if I go out and buy a CD or an album. I mean, you don't get all the credit list. You don't get where it's been recorded. You don't know who's produced it. One of those things that when I bought albums when I was younger, I love to. I could spend hours looking at the cover to see where it was recorded, who produced it, listen to see the lyrics and see the credit list and all these things. You don't get that today, which I can't understand because that should be so easy on iTunes to add those things as well.
Oh, absolutely. I remember sitting, because Kiss was my favorite band growing up. I don't know.
The first member ever in Denmark of the Kiss Army in 76.
Nice.
I had a diploma from Kiss. Congratulations. You are the first member in Denmark of the Kiss Army.
That's fantastic.
And it cost me $5 to do it. And I was so worried about my $5, man. I tell you, man, I have to borrow money from my mom, and she shipped it. And, are you sure you're going to get these things for the money? And I said, yeah, come on, Mom. And, it's a funny story because I was a huge Kiss fan. Now Kiss is not music anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it's funny, and I was going to ask you about Kiss here in a moment, but when I used to grow up, I don't know what it was about their albums in particular, but I used to sit with their albums like I did with all albums and read all the stuff that was inside, but their albums in particular had a specific smell to them that I always liked. You opened it up and there was this aroma that you always...
Exactly. Oh, you like Kiss too? How funny. Yeah, oh, man.
They were
I loved them in the 70s and the 80s.
Well, and I was going to ask you, Kiss was one of your major influences. What are your thoughts on them finally getting into the Hall of Fame, and what do you think of the drama surrounding that?
I think it was a fucking joke. I'm sorry. They couldn't even get along there. They didn't want to play, and I just read as much as I could about it, and I thought it was a joke. And I also think that the whole people behind the Hall of Fame was kind of silly too, weren't they? A little bit. But of course, I'm proud on behalf of Kiss. Because it's great. I think they deserve to be there. They have given a lot of things to this whole industry over 40 years or more.
Oh yeah.
So of course, personally, I think they deserve to be there. But this whole drama around it,
it was rather embarrassing.
And also the story is still going on between Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons towards Peter Criss, Nate Frehley, slacking each other. It's like kids. It's kid stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but...
It's kind of funny, but I think it's a bit silly, to be honest.
So, before we get out of here, a couple more things. If you would, take us back to the Future World Record, speaking of the connection to Kiss there, and tell us what it was like working on that album with Eddie Kramer, and maybe what you remember about recording the album.
Oh, man. We were so thrilled when we finally signed the contract that Eddie Kramer was going to produce that album. Think about it. Being a huge Kiss fan, being a Led Zeppelin fan, like Jimi Hendrix, he produced them all.
Right.
And also, and one of the more important things when we chose Eddie Kramer back then, it was because he produced an album with a band called Icon, a band called album called Night of the Crime.
Right.
What I probably should have done was I should have called Dan Wexler before and then after, because when we worked with Eddie Kramer, it was, oh my God, what a disappointment that was. I am so sorry to say that. Because he'd done all those Kiss albums, and I admired him. I looked up to him like he was a fucking idol. He was with Kiss, and you have to think about back then, Kiss was untouchable. You didn't even know how they looked like or anything. There was like so much mystery about that band. And then we finally got the producer. We got Eddie Kramer. And oh my God, what a disappointment that was. He didn't do anything. And we ended up that we had to fire him and worked on the rest of the album, recording it with the engineer that was there, a guy called Chris Isker. And then, of course, we had Kevin Nelson mixing some of the songs, and Flemming Rasmussen, who's done Metallic and stuff, mixing some of the songs. But Eddie Kramer thing, oh man, I'm sorry to say that, but what a disappointment that was.
So the best part of the whole thing was just you had his name on the album. That was about it.
But we had to. That was a part of the contract. We had to put his damn name on it. But still like you have the same interest. I mean, you would look at Eddie Kramer, wow, because the guy still's got a big name.
Right.
But, I mean, it's not for producing, I'll tell you that, because that was crap. Oh, I'm sorry. He was my hero, and then he disappointed me so badly. Oh, my goodness.
So do you remember any, fans love trivia and going all the way back to what is one of your seminal albums there. Do you have a little bit of trivia that you remember from when you guys recorded that fans might not be aware of?
Well, I don't know if you know it, but that was recorded we lived in New York at that time. This album, Future, was recorded at Bearsville, Woodstock, upstate New York. I didn't know if you were aware of that. But that was kind of funny, because that studio, Bearsville studio, was seemed to be the old studio for the band. And we were there hanging out with, Todd Rundgren and all these people were there, and a lot of producers. What's his name? Bob Claremont was there mixing. He was mixing Bruce Springsteen live album in one studio, and so it was kind of interesting to meet all these people.
Yeah, that's where Foghat did most of their albums.
Had a blast there, man. It was absolutely cool.
All right, so last thing before we get out of here, for the fans, give us 3 albums that changed your life.
Deep Purple made Japan, Thin Lizzy, Lime and Dangerous, and Destroyer with Kiss.
Beautiful list. I love it. Ken, I can't thank you enough for taking the time before you jump out on the tour to talk with us. The new album, Louder Than Ever.
Man. And listen, if anything you want to add, or you want to talk again, you got my Skype address. Just send me a note or call me or whatever. I mean, you're more than welcome, brother.
Absolutely. I love talking musical history and everything. Last question is...
Where are you located, actually?
I'm in the western portion of the United States. I'm in Boise, Idaho, of all places. So.
Idaho? Okay, cool, man. Yeah, well, maybe you never know. I might drop by one day. I love America. I have to say that. I love being there. I like the culture. I love driving around. I mean, the cars, the bikes. I mean, I got a Ford Mustang myself, But I like American cars.
All right, so last question as we walk out the door. I know this is the Louder Than Ever, sort of that bridge, the gap while you guys are out on tour before you do the next album. Have you already started writing for the next album?
Yeah, well, I got a few ideas. I won't say that we'd start writing. I just like basic, like riffs and stuff like that. But I'm quite sure when the tour starts, we'll end up having a few more riffs with us back home. I'm sure about that. For some reason, I always tend to sneak in riffs here and there when we're doing sound checks, because you have the whole sound there and everything just sound better, and so it inspires you a little bit.
Yeah, it's bigger,
Yeah, it is exactly.
Ken Hammer, Pretty Maids, the new album Louder Than Ever, out now on Frontiers, getting ready to do the European tour. Thanks so much for taking the time, and we look forward to talking to you when you're back on home ground.
I would love to, man.
All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take care, brother.